Tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with yours truly, the old salty dog, John Martin, as your host, and the captain of our pirate ship, and none other than Key West, the Florida Keys down that way, Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning to you, Ted.
Good morning, man. How you doing up there in up North Florida? I'm at the Southern Command down here.
Yeah, I'm at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, kind of the middle of the Gator Nation, so to speak. You can see all the helmets here behind me. If you've never been to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, you need to check it out. It's located at the Celebration Point, and the easiest way to find that is if you're traveling north or south on I-75 and you see the big Bass Pro, it's in that same general complex. Give it a try. And certainly call Freddie if you'd like to become a sponsor of the show, like what we're doing, support what we're doing. And tell us about one of our new sponsors there, Ted.
Southwest Archer Road. Phone number is 352-495-2485. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Archer Automotive.
Archer Automotive. Richard Fiegel started that. I've known Richard for a long time, and his son Ryan took it over until he passed away. And it's still run in the memory of Ryan. And Joe is the head guy there now. And I just can't tell you enough. They're just good, down to earth people that's going to give you an honest answer, do quality work, and you'll feel assured that you got the best work done possible. So thank you, Archer Automotive, and his wife, Seal.
Absolutely. Well, Ted, we're going to start with something that, I don't think we've heard any language quite like this from a leading political figure. And Ocasio-Cortez, love her, hate her, or whatever, she is a leading political figure in this nation, right, and to a certain extent known around the world. But she literally sounds to me, and we're going to play this video, like she's calling for a civil war. I don't remember hearing language like this since maybe the 60s or 70s with when you had various governors called George Wallace and stuff like that. But this, I'll set this up and we'll play it. She's down in Montgomery, Alabama, which is kind of the heart of some very much racial strife, no doubt about that, over the course of history. And she's calling out the South. But let's play it, Ted, and then I'll turn it straight over to you to talk about it.
Be glad to.
It's not a coincidence, and our whole country must understand that it was not until voting rights were ratified in this country that we got the Great Society. Because when Black Americans have the right to vote and that vote is protected, our schools get funded. When voting rights are protected, healthcare gets expanded. When voting rights are protected, our country moves forward. In Montgomery, that's what they're actually afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together. They're afraid of us protecting one another. Alabama is the crucible. Georgia is the crucible. Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi is the crucible. So if you are not from here, it is time to pull up. Because what they thought was the final blow is actually just the opening silo. Because it is not a coincidence.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she's talking in Montgomery, Alabama. She was there with, of all people, Cory Booker. And, of course, what they're kind of referencing is Alabama doing some redistricting and that thing. We lost you there for a second, Ted. I see you're back. What are your thoughts about Ocasio-Cortez. Am I over dramatizing it to say we haven't heard language like that in quite some time?
No, I don't think you are. And it's kind of surprising because she makes it sound like we're at a war and that, the South is trying to suppress people. And it's interesting. She's going down to the South. She's a Northeast, a New Yorker through and through, and a very progressive liberal. And they're trying to move into the South. And it's a smart political move on her point. But what she's in this country, what happened to uniting America? She is not uniting America. They're afraid. They're pitting one side against the other instead of talking about the greatness of America and how we're stronger when we're united. And you've heard me talk about the Japanese legislator that we're viewed around the world as the divided states of America, not the United States. And her rhetoric, Cory Booker, and I know you're going to play Hakeem Jeffries later on, talking, just the same kind of garbage. Who wants to live in that world they're creating or they're defining instead of talking about the greatness of America? I mean, Ocasio-Cortez grew up in a upper middle income country or family, and she's lived the American dream, but she's telling everybody how bad it is, how they've been suppressed by everybody else. You know my story. I know your story. We came from nothing. We worked because we had opportunity, and that's what America provides is opportunity. We don't take anything from anybody. It's just, the garbage that she is selling it's race baiting. It's worse than what Jesse Jackson was doing, or as bad, if not worse. And, the American people aren't going to buy that. They don't want to feel like they're under attack all the time. They want to talk about, baseball, all those things that are great about American life. And they're telling you how bad it is. And I don't buy into it. And I don't think the American people, they want to look at a promising future, not one that their AOC and her side are trying to tell you how bad this is, because what they're leading into is socialism and communism. And she won't tell you that, but that's what it is. And I want to know why AOC has to be behind bulletproof glass. Why is that when you don't see the president like that? And it shows you the hatred and vitriol that she's espousing in the world and or in our country. And she's trying to divide this nation more than instead of bringing it together.
Well, Ted, you pointed that out in an email to me, but I've thought about it, about the bulletproof glass. And I actually think that part of it is symbolic on their part, that they're trying to show that they're out there and they're in danger and that the MAGA people are attacking. It's almost similar in some ways to the Jussie Smollett thing, which was a total fraud or whatever. But I think they're trying to send a signal that they're courageous and that they're subject to being attacked. When the ironic part of that, Ted, is that the left is the one that's doing all the political attacking these days as far as threatening your life and trying to kill people and actually killing people that are political figures. So I actually think there's symbolism behind that more than safety.
No, I think there is too. I think she's trying to dramatize. Of course, she's a drama queen. And they talk about the attack on democracy all the time. Look at what they did in Virginia. Look what they did in California. The Virginia redistricting, California redistricting. Virginia wanted to go from 4 or 5 Republican seats down to 1. But they talk about how they want to do it for the people. No, they're doing it for power. They're doing it for power and to want to fundamentally transform and make America. And just go back to Obama. She is a puppet of Obama. This is the fundamental transformation of America, is the garbage they're spewing, the DEI, the wokeism, the transgenderism, pitting this side against the other side. And it's people are tired of that, John. They want to talk about the greatness of America, where we're going, the Artemis 2, the next thing that we're going to do, the next revolution in science that's going to move this country forward and create jobs and give opportunity to our young people here. And she grew up in there. If you think about it, it was the first generation of social media, the internet, that they grew up in that. And then it became more complicated with the social media influencer, which she has become one. But then you get AI in there, and you get all this stuff, and it's a confusing time, and people need some normalcy in their life. And what she is spewing is not normalcy; it's hatred, vitriol, and it's all for power and to fundamentally transform America. So she has become a good puppet of Barack Obama.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing you keep hearing them talk about is voting rights over
Right.
and over and over. And I challenge anyone out there. It's one thing to disagree with me, and I'll debate anybody about on anything if it's an honest debate. But tell me one example where a U.S. citizen that is duly qualified to vote has been denied the right to vote. There has been history of that, no question about it. There's been history of that in the South, like the tests they used to give people, the polling taxes and all that stuff. I'm not denying the history, none of that. But I'm saying, name me one person, show me one, because if there was one, Ted, they'd parade that person around the block over and over and over. They can't come up with one individual person that has been denied their right to vote in this country.
No, and go back to Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, back with the Black Panthers. Remember how they were standing outside of the booth threatening people to go in there and vote? If you're a certain political persuasion. I mean, they were intimidating people in this country. I don't see that going on. I don't see anybody being denied. You look at those videos you played of, I forget the young man's name, where he was asking people just basic questions about, do you have a driver's license? And of course, they were African Americans, the majority of the people he asked. And they said, well, of course. And he goes on and he goes, well, and then he interviewed the white college student, says, well, black people, they're not smart enough to get a voter ID or a driver's license. They don't know where the motor vehicle registration department is. And they were just playing that. And it shows you the ignorance that they highlight of people out there. And of course, the left fuels on that and they run with that. And it's been dispelled, and it's just race baiting at its worst. And the whole thing is she's a communist and she's pushing to make this country a communist country. It's not going to fly here.
And Ted, I just want to make clear how I feel about all this redistricting. Is it political? No doubt about it. Do I wish it wasn't? Absolutely. Do I think that it should be done on a consistent basis based on the census and all of that stuff and the Constitution of the United States and the state you're in? No doubt about it. So I'm not necessarily defending one side over another, but it is a political game. And the reality is the Democrats have played it much better than the Republicans over the years. That's why you have states like in New England. Show me a state where there's states in New England where there are 0 Republicans represented in the House, and there are like 40-50% Republicans and none of them in the House. So this has been going on a long time. I don't particularly like it. I wish we would do it, like I said, based on those other parameters. But to make it sound like this is race baiting and targeting to deny people the right to vote is just nonsense.
It's a worn out message that they're selling, but unfortunately, people don't know their history, and so they buy into that garbage. Name me one state that is 100% Republican. I don't think there is one, is there? And it's interesting. I told you I was reading that book on Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, and the 1800 election. It was Adams' second. It would have been his second term, and of course he lost. And they didn't have really parties, and they had Federalists and Republicans. And Jefferson was a Republican, and Hamilton and Adams and Washington were Federalists. But I bring that up because it was the first time that election in 1800, it would have been John Adams' second election, and he lost. But it was the first time they had electioneering where people were going out, and it wasn't the candidates. Aaron Burr was the one. He played both sides of the aisle. He pretended to be a Federalist, but he went around and really worked the electioneering hard, and he got Thomas Jefferson elected.
Yeah, the term she uses in her little speech there, where she talks about Alabama as a crucible, and she just goes South Carolina as a
Right.
crucible. All these different states are crucibles, and I'm assuming she's referring to the biblical analogy. But a crucible is literally a vessel, just so
I
people
doubt she is
understand.
referring to that.
Oh yeah, she's preaching. But a crucible is literally, Ted, I know you know this, but for our audience, in case they don't, is literally a vessel used to melt and purify metals like gold, silver under intense heat. So apparently she wants to purify the South. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, she's going in there probably uninvited by the majority of the population and trying to get them into the pot and say, "Oh, you need to be on our side and do that because you've been suppressed." These evil Jim Crow people, which incidentally they're the Jim Crow people, but they blame the Republicans, have suppressed you, and so we're going to go after them. We're taking the South. Well, I tell you right now, the South doesn't want any part of her.
Well, one of the reasons why they know so much about the racial issue and how to divide people on that is they basically invented it, like you're saying. But you know, I mean, so who should know it better than them? But Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, she makes it sound like the United States is basically Sodom and Gomorrah. And when you look at the picture that I had of it, a lot of our big cities that are run by Democrats, I have to say they look a lot like Sodom and Gomorrah. Not only have they got a lot of Sodom and Gomorrah going on, but they literally from time to time have been on fire and places where it's probably hard to find, quote, an honest man and all of that. But so the fact that they want to do that just is amazing to me when the best evidence of Sodom and Gomorrah are liberal run cities.
You know what she needs to do, and people like her, they need to get away from their congressional privileges and travel as a regular citizen and put her in Cuba, put her in Venezuela, and just let her look at the situation there. Put her in the Balkan or the Eastern European countries, Slovenia, Hungary, those countries that were under communism. Put her over there and then let her come back here and complain and moan about how bad America is. I don't think she's ever seen that. She's always traveled in a privileged way. You know, once you get into Congress, it's different the way you travel. And you get flown in and people pick you up and everything's great in the country you go to. But if you're just an average citizen and travel around, you come back and you want to kiss the ground of the good old US of A because you know how special this place is. And unfortunately, I feel bad for her. It must be her parental upbringing that they didn't educate her right on how blessed you are to live in this country. And that's the difference here. You look at Trump talking about the golden age of America. You look at Reagan talking about the beacon on the hill, the shining city. And, you know, there's a reference for what we have in this country. And it all goes back to the founding of this country, how it was founded. And people like her they missed that. They didn't get educated by their parents. They didn't get educated by the school and they hung out with the wrong people. And that's why you get people like her. She was a useful idiot. If you go back, not just her, but you know, the people like her, they get recruited. She got recruited by the American Democratic Party. And she auditioned for this position. She doesn't have strong beliefs. She just has a hatred. She just wants the notoriety, and she's fallen into it, and she's done well at it. But it's an anti-American slogan and message, and she wants to deliver failed socialism to America. Look at her. Look at the cities. I know you got a clip coming up of the great job she has done of creating jobs in her district, and the people up there. They must either be really ignorant or unattached, not involved, or they're just as useful idiots like she is.
Well, Ted, when you were talking about restrict her travel and make her travel certain ways, I get what you're saying, but perhaps they should just make her live in the heart of her own district that without her armed
Touche.
guards and everything, because you mentioned it. So let's play it. They named this. This is the heart of her district, and they call this the Sweethearts Market. Check this out.
during school hours, and it's even worse at night.
On a recent Friday, Pix 11 News saw activity in the 80s on Roosevelt Avenue, with one man apparently steering customers to a spot that was close to a barber shop.
We are seeing more Latino women doing prostitution. I think those women have no other options.
Some are Venezuelan, Colombian, and they are having their own massage parlors alongside with the Asians.
By day, Pix 11 News noticed a row of women near a physical therapy office on 92nd Street. The manager inside telling us it's hurting his business.
Because patients, they don't want to come in to do therapy because they are being harassed.
We spotted a surveillance camera over the tiny hallway where the alleged brothel is located, which had wallpaper on its door. Eddie said police shut it down several weeks ago.
Well, apparently there's plenty of work in her district for an attractive young female, Ted, and I'm not advocating for it, but, if she wants to prove the love for her district, then maybe she should just go be a sweetheart in the district that she helped create the chaos there.
I tell you what, it's disgusting. And this problem's been going on. It's gotten worse. I think one of those people in that interview said it's been going on for 20 to 30 years, but it's gotten worse in the last 5 to 10 years. And that's the time AOC's been in it. They're not putting an emphasis on making safe communities. Of course, she wants to defund the police. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about her because she is a cancer or a termite in a building that it does no good to the enhancement of the building or of a patient. If you've got cancer and you've got cancer cells in there, it destroys the patient. And her and her friends or radical friends in Congress, their festering condition, call it cancer or antibiotic resistant infection that's going to kill the host, and these people are going to kill the host, and the host is the United States of America, not the divisive states of America that they want to pretend that this country is. And I don't buy that garbage, and I hope enough Americans say we're done with her and throw her out of office.
Yeah, well, I hear you continue to talk about AOC. She's actually in the media enough already. But
she sure is.
I was going to play this one video, but we'll move along to the next one. But if you wonder how Ocasio-Cortez keeps getting elected, remember Nancy Pelosi literally held up a glass of water and said in the district that AOC just won, when she first won, a glass of water could get elected if it had a D behind it. So that pretty much explains it. Maybe those people will get fed up there. We'll see. But she talks about in that video we played at the beginning about pulling up to the South. Well, one thing is for sure, Ted, a lot of people are pulling out of New York and pulling up to the South. They're pulling up in their vehicles to the South. Check this out. New York has lost hundreds of thousands of residents since 2020, with the state's population still below now its 2020 baseline, and the trend of net out-migration continues. Think about that. New York has less population now than it did in 2020. You certainly can't say that about any state in the South.
No, you can't. I mean, that's a clear indicator of what's going on, John. If I owned a restaurant and I was selling less food this year than last year, and that trend happens again next year, I'm going backwards. Am I going to keep doing the same thing, or am I going to change my management style, my menu, my pricing? There's a sign here. It's kind of like Bill Engwall. Here's your sign. There's something wrong up there, and you might want to change that. I just hope the people that are moving to Florida into the South don't bring their Northeastern politics or California politics. Did I send you that video of Oregon, how they're just falling apart? Portland is falling apart. We might do that on another segment, but it's the same thing. The liberal policies are just ruining the city. And the city wants to tax businesses that have closed down, that don't reopen. They're going to tax them or fine them for not reopening a business.
Well,
it's Portland, like, why would I open a business? You don't enforce the laws, and people are stealing stuff and Go ahead, Portland.
Well, no, Portland and Seattle are like sister cities up there in Oregon and Washington, and they're having the same thing. We showed you that one video last week of the mayor of Seattle talking about, well, if millionaires want to leave, bye. And you had
laughing.
You had the owner of the Seattle Seahawks that won the Super Bowl last year talking about that millionaires tax and basically warning that they may not be able to get free agents to sign on with the Seattle Seahawks in the future because of that. So, it's going to hurt them in many, many ways.
But they don't care about that because they want everybody to share the wealth. They don't believe in capitalism, and they want you to be as in, the misery. Socialism is the equal misery amongst the people.
Absolutely. Well, we mentioned coming to Florida, and New Yorkers come down here a lot, and I'm not begrudging them, and I agree with you about whatever brings you down here, drives you out of New York or wherever, don't bring it with you. But one of the best spokesmen for Florida, and this was a couple years ago, is Grady Judd. If you don't want to listen to me,
God bless Grady Judd.
My favorite sheriff of all time, probably, Grady Judd of Lakeland, of Polk County, when he talks about basically if you're coming down here about what you might run into in the the free state of Florida. Check this out.
Grady Judd is a good sheriff, a great sheriff, but he's not as good as Bobby Schultz, America's sheriff out in Gilchrist County.
Good point.
Criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns. So leave the community alone.
I mean, you got to give him credit, Ted. He pretty much puts it out there. That's one thing, like where I live, and I'm not advocating for it, but we don't have a whole lot of home invasions where I live because they know that they just assume that most of the people in my little town of Hawthorne are packing. And they love guns and they know how to use them.
Yeah, and again, and I hate to bring her name up again, but AOC, they don't have a clue how life is in the South or in rural America, I'll say. She's grown up in a city and people like her have grown up in the city, and they just don't understand how people can act like that down here or in any town that really values their freedoms. And it's a losing message. And God help us if people like her stay in power.
Well,
or gain higher offices.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but before we do, I just want to remind you to come on board, help us educate, motivate, and activate people and save this country. Make that call Freddie. Take us to break, Ted.
No, we appreciate everybody being on here. Like we say all the time, our goal is to educate, activate, motivate and activate people. And it's up to you, the listener, to spread our word out far and wide and to support our sponsors. Like Archer Automotive out in Archer. And I can't tell you enough, and tell them John and I sent you there, and you'll get the best deal you can on automotive repair. And one last thing, Richard Fiegel came to me with a bill called the Right to Work bill. And we'll talk more about that when we come back, but it's to support small mechanic shops. So we'll talk to you in a minute.
We'll be right back.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, plus you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Well, there you have the old ball coach, a good old Southern boy from Tennessee who made history down here in Florida, none other than Steve Spurrier. And of course, as I said at the top of the show, I'm broadcasting to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We appreciate their support. Come check them out here. But Ted,
Absolutely.
it's not all bad news. I wanna give you something here we'll talk about that has happened over the weekend, just yesterday. What they call Rededicate 250. It's part of the ongoing celebration of America turning 250. It was a national jubilee prayer, praise, and thanksgiving. I'm using a template of a Reuters story to kind of cover it. But if you didn't see it, you really need to check it out. I think we got a picture up that shows a lot about what was happening up there. But it apparently was a magnificent event. And there are a lot of good things. There is a type of spiritual revival that seems to be happening. I'm not surprised because it probably happened after Sodom and Gomorrah fell as well. So maybe there is a parallel there. I'm not sure. But what are your thoughts about what happened Sunday and how that shows that there are some good things still happening in our nation?
I think the timing was perfect. It's definitely needed at this time in our country. And when I was up there in D.C., they were getting everything prepared for that. And I suspect that whole preparation they did is going to carry through July 4th for the 250th birthday of the United States. And John, it is needed. It's timely. And, the liberal media is going after, oh, you're mixing religion with politics, and it was anything but that. I mean, yeah, there were political leaders talking about the Bible and God and all those things, but those are the founding principles of this nation. Unlike President Obama saying that we're not a Christian nation. We've never been a Christian nation. I mean, that just shows you that guy was so out of touch, and he was really hell-bent on changing America, the transformation of America. And it's good to see this revival. It's something that needs to continue. And I think you're going to see more of this as we get more divided and people become unsure of their future. They're going to come closer to God. And as they do that, this nation will grow stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we mentioned it in the first part of the show about the use of the word crucible by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but I'm going to read to you from Proverbs 17:3, which states, "The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart." And I'm not saying I'm an expert on theology or Christianity or any of that, but I do know from my own experience that your faith can be tested, those types of things. People talk about that, but really it's a lot easier to have faith when you don't really need it. Sometimes it's a bit more difficult to have faith when it's being tested. And our country,
absolutely.
to our country, Ted, to a certain extent, is being tested in multiple ways right now. And it's up to the American people to stand up to that test. I'm not even necessarily promoting Christianity. That's your choice. But if you want to have a life of faith, you got to stand up. And that's what we really need, is for the American people to stand up.
What's funny is, we all go through trials and tribulations. Nations go through it. We're going through it now. We're going to always go through those things. But you got to have grounding in something that's bigger than you, that you believe in. And we saw the transformation of Ben Franklin in the beginning of the founding of this nation, how he was a deist, not a Christian believer in the Almighty God. He just knew there was something bigger than him out there. But at the end of his life, he talked about the presence of God, how, if a sparrow can fall in a forest without God, with God not missing that, and he understands that, how can a nation rise without his help? And so they go through trials and tribulations, and they get grounded, and they come back to the basics. And that's what's needed in this country. We need to come back to the basics. And it is for this nation. It's the Christian beliefs this nation was founded on. Sorry, Barack. It is a Christian nation.
Yeah, well, Ted, I don't talk about it too much, but at least I don't think I do. But, I put my own self in a lot of trials and tribulations. I've been pretty honest about my story and all that.
You do that too?
Yeah, I I was pretty far down the pole there, and
Hmm.
I grew up in a tremendous background. But if God doesn't make junk, I certainly turn my Cadillac into junk myself. And the
Yeah.
thing I'm most grateful for is that when I finally kind of started seeing the light, I had a heck of a foundation to come back to because the way I was raised, my family, all that, they built a
Right.
firm foundation. I worked in a drug treatment center for like 15 years, and
Wow.
I really feel for people that try to turn their life around but don't have that foundation. They have to create it from scratch. And I didn't have to do that. So I'm very grateful to the people that built that foundation for me. But that's kind of really what we got to get back to in this country, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have that foundation that you and I have had of how great America, how unique it is. So one of the things that I think we both agree with in doing this show is to help people get back to the foundation of America, but if you don't have that foundation, to learn how special it truly is.
It is, and I had the privilege to play college football for a short period of time. And the coaches, even through high school, junior sports and high school and college, it was all focused on the basics, blocking and tackling, blocking and tackling. Life is the same way. You go back to the basics: God, country, family, the 10 commandments. It's those things. Teach your child in the way to go. And it's the responsibility of us as adults, but also as Americans, that we need to stick to the basics and teach that to the next generation, because they're going to go through the same trials and tribulations. Like I said, I read a lot, and you can go back 4,000 years ago, John, and the people go through the same challenges we do. The thing that keeps them grounded is having faith in something bigger than themselves. And I think the 250 day or year celebration and the call to prayer was the perfect thing to do at this point in time.
Yeah, well, I tell you, a piece of news that came out the other day didn't get too much coverage, but President Trump, under his leadership, they're redoing the reflection pond there in the mall, and apparently it's pretty well done, I think now, or close to it. But apparently they pulled tons and tons of garbage out of the reflection pond. I mean, just an astronomical amount of just plain garbage.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's kind of where we are as a nation. We got to pull the garbage. We got to clean our pond up. We got to reflect on where we have been and where we're going and what could happen. All of that stuff. But the critics of this event that happened yesterday, this is one of the things they said in an article.
Really? There were critics? I can't believe there were critics.
Imagine that. They said that the critics expressed gathering not to reflect the country's diverse faith landscape. That's what they're saying, that it's just too centered around Christianity and it's not diverse. It doesn't represent the diverse faith. I'm not sure what that even means, diverse faith leadership. I don't know what.
I don't think they know what it means either. It's a talking point somebody handed them. They just don't understand the founding of this country. Go back and read why the Pilgrims came here, and it's all about religious freedom. And I feel bad for these people that are so far off and trying. It'd be like you and I going into the NFL and tell them how they should play football. You ought to make the ball a little bit smaller for people with small hands so they can catch it, and maybe shorten the field so they don't have to run so hard, and just change the whole makeup of the game. It's not football anymore. Just create your own game. And if the people that feel like this country, it's not a Christian nation and we're talking too much about Christianity, go to another country, start your own country, get out of here. You're not going to mess up a good thing. And we've been blessed to have this country. And the thing we need to do, John, is really talk to the young people, because they're going to inherit this country. It is a great nation. And it's like if I were to give you a Stradivarius violin, it is a great instrument. How well you learn to play it is up to you. My job is to get you to the dance floor. How well you learn to dance is up to you. And that's what this nation is. It is a great venue. It becomes to you what you make of it. And we just want to make sure it's there for you.
Yeah, well, a lot of, the left kind of says diversity is our strength. And I get what they're saying, but really and truly, diversity, melting pot, blending the gate, taking the best of everything is
Good
our
point.
strength. That's truly our strength. But, I'm not opposed to different faiths by any stretch whatsoever.
Absolutely
But
not.
what I am opposed to is this next video I'm about to play. And this is not in Baghdad. This is not on the streets of Tehran. This is in Detroit, Michigan, which, used to represent the heart and soul, the very essence of the working class American. But check this video out from Michigan, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Sure.
Malcolm X said, and I quote, "We live in one of the rottenest countries that has ever existed on this earth. It's not Genocide Joe that has to go. It's the entire system that has to go. Any system that would allow such atrocities and such devilry to happen and would support it, such a system does not deserve to exist on God's earth."
Ted, that's what I'm opposed to. You come to this nation and chant death to America. He talked about Malcolm X. Malcolm X actually had a transformation. People forget this. When he actually went over and visited some Muslim nations, he came back and spoke out against what they were doing over there, freedom and everything else. And he was killed by Muslims in this country that didn't agree with him. So people tend to forget that. But Ted, that's what I don't like, is coming over here. I wouldn't go to the middle of Iraq or Saudi Arabia or any country and talk about how much I hated it and how it needed to be destroyed and expect to be treated nicely.
No, absolutely not. And, I meant to bring this up earlier, to be able to go out and pray in this country and have freedom of religion. Try that in any other country. Try it in a Muslim country. Try it in in a communist country like China. They're arresting and killing Catholic priests. The Muslim countries are, we saw that under ISIS, how they were going after the Christians and the Coptic Christians and killing them, beheading them, raping the women. And, people need to wake up and really understand what we have in this country and how precious that gift is that we have called freedom and liberty that's enshrined in the Declaration of Independence and protected by our Constitution.
Well, I hate using the Hitler card because I think when people start using that, their argument's pretty much done. But I will say this. If you look at what's happening in Europe right now, you've got Jews under attack and being killed, and the synagogues, even in New York City, being torched and everything else, and the people doing it are basically Muslim fanatics that have been allowed to come into those countries. So when you start playing the Hitler card, the people that are acting and doing what Hitler was doing aren't coming from the religious right in this country.
They're not, but then those people capture Mayor Fry out of Minneapolis, Tim Walz, the police chief in Detroit, Michigan, where and he's an American, Anglo-Saxon looking type, but he got sworn in on the Koran. So they're capitulating because they want to play nice to get along and be part of that club, but it's the wrong club. But they love power. They want to be in that position. And instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do that, and buck up against that and push back. That's what's wrong, is these people capitulate, think they're going to play nicer with them, and then in the end, when they get to be the majority, they're going to throw them out and trample them because they're not they're infidel. And the chant "Death to America" in this country is treasonous, I think, and I think it should be dealt with appropriately.
Yeah, well,
they need to visit with Grady Judd.
Here you go. Well, just so you know, if you're up there in Michigan, you might want to pay attention, because the latest poll coming out of Michigan, they're having a Democratic primary for the open Senate seat and the Republican as well. But Abdul El Sayed has opened a 10-point lead in Michigan in the Democratic Senate primary. I want to show you the picture because, oh, by the way, this guy is one of those guys too, and you'll see it in the picture. I'm not talking about Muslim, he is. I'm talking about he's a Bernie bro. He is the oligarchateur. He is a far left extremist, and there's a whole litany of stuff he said that you might want to check out if you're voting in Michigan, because it's amazing that in the heart and soul of America, in Detroit, what used to literally be the heart and soul of America, that this guy could be the next senator from there is a bit troubling, to say the least. I don't know if Ted may have been frozen. But
No, I'm here.
Okay. But I want to tell you, if you want to know what religious
I thought you were
group,
playing a video. I couldn't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all right, we're going to now.
Okay.
What religious groups are America's enemies? To me, there's one group out there that is more dangerous than any other group out there. And I give you a clue. It's not, Chinese communists. It's not Islamic fundamentalists. It's not Persian, Iranian terrorists. I got a training video that I've uncovered, and I want to show you the greatest threat, apparently, to America right now. Check this out.
Good God.
Ted, I've uncovered that video. I think you might agree with me. Right now, in the current state of America, that may be the greatest single threat, enemy of within, liberal white women. We want to make it about race. I'll make it about race.
Angry liberal white women.
Liberal white women screaming in the woods is probably the most dangerous threat this country has ever faced.
God bless them. They getting their anger out and they get realigned, but Jiminy Crickets, work always did wonders for me because I was so broke growing up. I want to say something about Abdul El Sayed. When you read his profile, John, I'm sure you have, he was endorsed by U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, Democrat congressional nominee and Democrat socialist activist, AOC, Women's March organizer Linda Sarsour, endorsed by Organization Justice Democrats and The Nation's magazine. And it just goes on. He is a communist, and he's backed by Paul Soros, the son of George Soros, and he's more radical than his father. And so this is a guy that is he's just bad news. But it's the little steps that the socialists are making in these city races, and he's on there with Hassan Piker at events in Michigan. And you've got these inroads that they're making all over the nation. And this is something that's not going to go away. And as you saw with the AOC thing, she's out there, she's running hard to make sure that the gains they've made don't back up. And if Trump loses the majority in these elections coming up, everything will be put on pause that he's done. They'll work to impeach him. And I know you've got that video of Hakeem Jeffries that kind of just really brings that out. We're at some tough times in this country. And I agree with you on the angry liberal white women. Take their subscription to Beverly Housewives or whatever those programs are. Take that away for a week, and they'll fall back in line.
I hear you. Well, the media is making it sound like Donald Trump has no chance. His influence is waning, and who knows what the midterms are going to hold. I did see on my latest trip down to Tampa or St. Pete and back that a couple places actually had gasoline under $4 a gallon. And so, it could turn around. But I know one thing, in the Republican Party, if you don't back Donald Trump, you got a problem. Bill Cassidy a two-term Republican senator out of Louisiana, lost his reelection bid. We don't know what ultimately is going to happen in the primary. And here's the thing that really got me about Cassidy. I don't know the man that well. I follow him a little bit. And I'm not saying he has to kowtow to Donald Trump. But remember this, Ted. Cassidy accepted Donald Trump's endorsement the last time around, and in less than a month later, he voted to impeach Donald Trump, who he had accepted the endorsement from. I got a problem with somebody who would do that.
And don't we call that a turncoat? Yeah, I served with Bill Cassidy. He was from Louisiana. He was a congressman when I came in. Very nice guy, but he's on the liberal side for sure. And it was time for him to leave. And there's two people running. One was a member of the House, John. He's an MD. He's part of the Freedom Caucus. Very nice guy, very astute businessman. And then the lady that's running, she's a congresswoman, and she was the one that her husband died when he got elected in Louisiana. He died of COVID, and she wound up taking his seat, and she's doing very well. So yeah, I've got a problem with that too. You take Trump's endorsement and turn around and vote against him.
Yeah, it's crazy. And another guy that's probably who's next on that list might be a guy I think you served with, Thomas Massey. He's trailing in the polls behind a gentleman named Ed Gallerin in Kentucky, and the primary is actually, I believe, tomorrow. So
Tuesday,
we'll find out about that. And but the midterms, as I say, you had gas. But you mentioned this, and I want to play this before we run out of time. If you talk about religion and the message of peace that the Democrats, might be trying to put out there, which I don't think, I want to play this Hakeem Jeffries video. If you want to know what's going to happen in the midterms, of course, they're going to try to impeach Donald Trump immediately if the Democrats take over in the House. But Hakeem Jeffries seems to be taking it a bit further, because he's talking about in this video all the people that support Donald Trump, not other politicians, average, everyday Americans that support Donald Trump. If you believe in America first, listen to what Hakeem Jeffries says as he has in store for you, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Beat the far-right extremists. We're going to win in November, and then we're going to crush their souls. We will beat the far-right extremists.
That's probably good enough. Yeah, you're right. He says that if you look at the extended version of that clip, he literally is saying, not Donald Trump, he's talking about the supporters. If you believe in the America First agenda, we're going to take power and we're going to crush your souls. So you got AOC.
That's a great unifying message.
Yeah, you got AOC, Ted, talking about basically rhetoric that would create a civil war, and you got another New Yorker in Hakeem Jeffries who actually has some power now and would have a whole lot more if he was the next Speaker of the House, talking about crushing the souls of average, everyday working Americans.
Yeah, I know. And again, it's the hatred and vitriol, but they're the party of peace, aren't they? They're the ones that want to lower the temperature in the room. Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. Maxine Waters, we got to lower the rhetoric. And Hakeem Jeffries was saying that too. They're just full of it, and they're just angry people because they're not in power right now. And when they're in power, they're more angry.
Absolutely. Well,
you brought up Thomas Massey. I got to talk about Thomas because he and I came in together. Actually, he was a couple weeks ahead of me, 6 weeks, I think, because he won a special election. Somebody had passed away or moved out. He nominated me for Speaker of the House against Boehner, and there's a long story about that. I like Thomas a lot, but he's kind of like Bernie Sanders in his stance, in that it's just one-sided. Bernie's against the billionaires, and he wants socialism. Thomas wants 100% following the Constitution, which I think is a great idea. But he's gone off the rails here. When you get back into the Epstein files and things like that, when you look at all of our problems in the nation, it's not Jeffrey Epstein. It may be the people that were associated with him, but we've got bigger problems right now. We've got our debt, we've got China, we've got the lack of assimilation in this country, failing education, an energy policy for this country to be energy secure. Because if we were energy secure, our prices wouldn't be so radical. And so we need to focus on these things. And Thomas, as much as I like him, he needs to work at solving problems, not just being an obstructionist. And I think he's got a very good chance of losing, and I hate it because I like Thomas.
Yeah, I guess it will remain to be seen. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. We hope you like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide. I tell them all the time, I know our audience, a lot of them are old dudes and ladies like myself, although the ladies aren't near as old as I am. And I would tell you to give this assignment as a homework assignment to your kids and grandkids. Because the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to educate, motivate, and activate people to save this nation, to energize the American people, to let people know that there is a foundation of this country. It's very special. And if you don't have that foundation, we can help build one for you. And so make that call Freddie, be a part of our army of patriots, so to speak, man the political ramparts with us. And Ted, give us some closing thoughts and take us out.
Sure. We're going to give another homework assignment. I want people to read about that Cuba has 300 military drones and what the ramification would be if they were to attack Florida, because we are the nearest place, or Guantanamo Bay. We can talk about that on Monday. And again, our goal is to educate people. Share this with people you know and like, and just get this message out. If you've got organizations or clubs or schools and you want to invite John or I in to speak, we'll be happy to do that. And don't forget our sponsor, Archer Automotive. Their phone number is 352-495-2485. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll have more to talk about on Friday. Y'all have a great week. God bless.
Peace out, everybody.